All offseason, we were told that the Chicago Bears were going to have an electric offense, and going into week one, expectations for that unit were very high, and understandably so. There were plenty of reasons to think that the Bears would go into Tennessee and look a lot better than they did. But as we all know, that group ended up falling flat, and in Chicago fashion, ended up having to be bailed out by Chicago's defense, a group that, even though they weren't quite as hyped up, are quantifiably elite and easily amongst the 10 best defensive units in the league. Ironically, though, this defensive charge wasn't led by one of Chicago's superstars. It wasn't led by Montez Sweat or Jalen Johnson or Tremaine Edmonds, even though they played their roles in the comeback. Instead, one could argue the most impactful player on Chicago's defense on Sunday was Darrell Taylor, a late offseason acquisition coming over from the Seattle Seahawks, a player the Bears sent a 2025 6th-round pick for on August 23rd, right before cut day. Taylor walked away with 2.5 sacks, 5 pressures, 8 total tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and a major forced fumble coming late in the game that ended up putting Chicago in field goal range. So, I want to take a look at the film and see what made his debut with the Bears so important, and why I would argue that their investment has already returned its value. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at Darrell Taylor's film and see what he did against the Tennessee Titans. Alright, so I want to start here by talking about Taylor's pass rushing. You can see he's lined up here as a 9 technique, a wide 9, whatever you want to call it. Basically what that means is he's going to be lined up outside of the offensive line. You can see here, this is the left tackle, being rookie J.C. Latham, who we'll talk about plenty in this video because that is who Taylor was up against for most of the game. But basically he's lined up out here because he is a quicker pass rusher, and lining up out here gives him a little bit of extra room to kind of build up some momentum and attack the outside shoulder of this tackle, right? Taylor is not the strongest guy in the world. He's not somebody who's great at stacking and shedding. What he excels at is attacking that outside shoulder and just being quicker than the guy across from him. So lining him up out here as a wide 9 is going to give him that advantage, going to give him a little bit more room to kind of build up that speed and allow him to hit that outside shoulder at a faster, top speed than he would had he lined up directly over top of the tackle. You're also going to see Chicago showing a little bit of pressure here. You've got Tremaine Edmonds, who's going to end up blitzing. TJ Edwards ends up dropping back. But that's kind of irrelevant to what Taylor's doing here. Either way, you're going to see as this play begins to develop, Levis immediately is going to take the snap, and you see Taylor is starting to build up that speed that I was talking about, right? I don't know why I lapsed on that for a minute. And then what we've got here is J.C. Latham. This is, like I said, going to be kind of the man of the hour outside of Taylor. This is who Taylor was matched up against for most of the game. And the problem with Latham is this is his first game playing left tackle. I don't know career-wise, but at least recently, in recent memory, this is his first game playing left tackle. Maybe he did in high school. You'll have to let me know in the comments if that's the case. But basically, Latham, he played right tackle at Bama, was a top pick by the Titans, a top 10 pick, and they switched him over to left tackle. I made my Titans draft grade video. If you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out. But, I voiced my concerns with that primarily because Latham is not the quickest pass blocker. He's not the quickest player because he is this big, hulking behemoth of a tackle. So because he's not the quickest guy in the world, Taylor is going to take full advantage of that. You're going to see Taylor here, as he kind of gets to the outside, he's going to attack this outside shoulder of Latham, and from this angle, it's hard to tell, but basically Latham's trying to get a hand into Taylor's chest, and Taylor is going to use his inside hand to swipe that hand down, and then he's going to duck underneath and go for Will Levis. So you see, he does that little swap motion, he gets up underneath of Latham. You can see Latham's kind of trying to hook him here to prevent him from getting to Levis, and that does slow him down a little bit. But because Levis is still a young quarterback and isn't exactly the best against pressure, he is, for reference, going to end up looking over in this area of the field. You've got Tyler Boyd running, I don't remember offhand if it's a slant or an out route or what it is, but basically Boyd's going to run into this area of the field. He's going to try to hit Boyd. And as Taylor ends up getting in the backfield, he's starting to get knocked off his upright positioning by Latham. Latham actually does a pretty solid job of recovering here, just using his strength to try to bury Taylor. But Levis, you can see at the last minute there, has to take that extra little step. We'll rewind it just a little bit. Because Taylor's behind him, because Taylor is about to hit this back foot right here, Levis has to take the slightest step forward, which is going to completely ruin his base on this play. If your quarterback's throwing the ball with his feet that far apart, looking anything like this, game over. Like, you know that is not going to be a good pass attempt. So what ends up happening, Levis throws this ball from this awkward angle, and it goes out in front of a Tyler Boyd who has a step or two of separation on Tyreek Stevenson, who ends up getting a pick later in the game. We'll let this run in full speed just to give you a full idea of the play. But it's really good work by Taylor, just utilizing that quickness, that athleticism. This is early in the game. This is, 50 seconds into the first quarter. This ends up being the first play he gets credited with a pressure 1 of 5 in the game. Just really, really good stuff there from Taylor to start out. All right, so here's another example where at the start of the second quarter, this is literally the first play of the second quarter, we've got Taylor lined up as a wide 9 once again. This time it's a little more apparent because we actually have a tight end lined up on his side of the field, being Chigakonkwo. So this wide 9, like I said, gives him more space to build up a little bit of momentum between him and the tackle, Latham, here. So we're going to see another good example of Taylor's quickness and his hand fighting against a bigger, slower tackle. They're going to bring a man in motion here as the ball snapped. You see Taylor hesitates for a second to figure out what Chig's going to do. Chig's going to take off downfield. He's running a route. So now his eyes are on Latham. You see he builds up that quickness, and right here, this is the key. This hand, Taylor knows if Latham gets this big-ass baseball mitt of a hand on him, he's not doing anything for the play, right? Latham, one of the big things about his game is his hand fighting is great, and more importantly, his hands are strong. It's like he's got vice grips attached to his wrists. So if he ends up getting a hand firmly on Taylor, it's wraps. So Taylor knows he can't let that happen. He attacks the outside shoulder here. He ends up pulling off that little bit of a rip move, and now he is up underneath of Latham. He's in Latham's chest, as the shoulder in the chest you can see here. And now all Latham can do is kind of use his big body, his momentum, to push Taylor out of the play. That's not quite going to work. He ends up going underneath again. Levis is going to try to pump fake here, going to maybe even try to throw. I don't know what his actual intent here was, but he draws back to throw. He sees Taylor behind him, so he has to end up tucking this, and that opens up Taylor, who, great vision, great awareness on this play, ends up resetting his feet immediately so Latham can't drive him downfield. He sees that Levis is starting to run, so he is going to end up, making his way over across the formation here. Ends up chasing down Levis, grabs him low. Nice tackle. He kind of does this, intense stare thing. Bears fans were memeing the shit out of Darrell Taylor's stares, and we'll see a big one here in a couple plays where he made a massive play for the day. But we'll run this back in full speed here just so you can see. Again, a little hezzy step, nice rip move there, gets underneath of him, and ends up chasing down Levis to finish the play. So that's not only great work against the tackle, but that's also a high-effort play, making sure you start it, you finish it. That's the kind of stuff that Matt Eberflus loves to see with his hits principle. And it's very apparent that Taylor has taken that to heart quickly, and it has become a major part of his game, something we'll see a little bit later in the video with a different aspect of his game when we get to that point. All right, this time Taylor is going to be rushing from a 2-point stance, which, if you're unaware, means he's rushing with only his 2 feet on the ground, as opposed to Montez Sweat over here in a 3-point stance with the 2 feet and the hand. None of the Bears linemen here are in a 4-point stance, but that would be the hand, the 2 feet, and the second hand, right? That's just how many appendages you have touching the ground is what your stance is considered in terms of points. For those unaware, just throwing that out there. This time we've got Taylor lined up between the slot wide receiver and the offensive tackle. This is more of a hybrid role because he is in this 2-point stance. For those unaware, the Bears run a 4-3 defensive front, meaning that their linemen are going to be usually in 3 or 4-point stances. If he's upright lined up this wide, this is typically less of a defensive end role and more of a outside linebacker role. You can see you've got the two off-ball linebackers with Edmonds and Edwards, and Jack Sanborn, the Bears' other linebacker, is not on the field, so technically speaking, you could consider Taylor to be an outside linebacker at this point. That's kind of neither here nor there. I'm just getting into the nerdy stuff of the schematics. But what does matter is Taylor's about to make a huge play here on this. You're going to see they're going to bring a receiver in a bit of an orbit screen here, or an orbit motion, not screen. They don't throw it to him out of the backfield. You're bringing Kyler Gordon, the nickel, in motion. What's going to end up happening is Taylor this time is going to be faced with a pulling guard. This is a little bit of play action. You see here his usual sparring partner in J.C. Latham ends up crashing down on Andrew Billings, the nose tackle, along with their second-year offensive lineman Peter Skoronski. So you're going to see Taylor, he ends up dropping a little bit for a moment. He hesitates just to see what's going on, to see if this is a handoff. And then once he sees that Levis still has the ball, he returns to rush. Here he's up against Lloyd Cushenberry, the center, and what's going to end up happening is Taylor is, again, as per usual, going to attack this outside shoulder. He does a good job of going up underneath, and that is going to allow him to avoid getting hands in him firmly. And because he has this positioning on the center, who is now in like a table stance, you know, he's completely folded over, he's able to bend this edge and get around to Levis. And Levis is looking downfield. He wants something deep. And Taylor sees that. He's going to end up forcing Levis once again just to take like a tiny little step forward. That tiny step messes up Levis's footwork. You can see he's throwing the ball with 1 foot in the air, 1 foot planted, his body going in like a snake almost. You know, we've seen the meme already of Levis with like the defeat cobra or whatever they're calling it, where his like torso's bent forward. He's doing that here. He lets this ball rip. And what ends up happening, because Taylor is able to force Levis to step up a little bit, is he's going to underthrow this deep ball to Calvin Ridley, who is covered by Jalen Johnson, one of the best corners in the sport. And because of that, the ball is going to land here instead of landing out here where Levis likely wanted to place it, because Ridley does have a step here on Johnson. So if Levis was able to place this ball out in front of Ridley, assuming Ridley can catch it, which is far from a guarantee if you watched him with the Jaguars last year, then this is likely a touchdown. However, because this is underthrown, Jalen Johnson's actually able to make a play on this ball. Now, he does end up dropping it, unfortunately. But because of Taylor's pressure, the pressure he generates on this play, he doesn't get the sack, he doesn't even really get a hand on Levis, but because of that last second step forward he has to take. Just rewind it a little bit so you can see that step. This is where Levis wants to release from. He takes that step forward, it completely screws up everything. The ball ends up being underthrown. Should have been an interception, but, you know, the age-old saying, if he was a consistent catcher, he'd be a receiver. But I digress. Really good play from Taylor, setting up his teammate for a potential interception, and, if nothing else, preventing a touchdown. All right, this was probably Taylor's biggest play of the game, ends up forcing a fumble. I'm going to let it run from this angle, and then we'll break it down from the end zone angle. So there you see, hits Levis as he's throwing, ball comes out, ends up being a fumble. Bears get the ball inside the Titans territory there at about like the 32. So just for reference, Taylor back in a 3-point stance, one hand in the dirt. So, you know, the 1, the 2, the 3. And he is aligned as a wide 9. Once again, really going to give him that extra cushion against Mr. J.C. Latham, who he is going to attack once again, his favorite sparring partner, a matchup that the Bears are just absolutely luffing here. So Taylor is actually going to switch things up a little bit. We've seen from the other pass rushes, he's just went straight to this outside shoulder and bent the corner. That's not what he's going to do this time. You're going to see Taylor's actually going to step inside, hit him with a little hezzy step, and then attack the outside shoulder, which allows him to get into the backfield quicker. There's a lot less resistance doing it this way. So you see, boom, right there, steps inside. That forces Latham to kind of reconsider what's happening here. We'll replay that right there. That step inside, step outside, Latham tries to get his hand in Taylor's chest. Taylor, at that point, is already on the outside. He ends up swiping the hand away. Then Taylor's able to go around the edge here. This time, totally untouched by Latham. You've seen on the other plays, Latham is usually pushing into Taylor. This time, he doesn't even have a chance to get a hand on Taylor. Levis has no idea he's coming. He's looking downfield. He wants a big play. So you see Taylor comes up behind him as the ball's being thrown, ends up hitting the arm. Ball comes out. It's a fumble. There's a skirmish. Shout out to J.C. Latham here, who's actually the first guy to get to the ball. Good hustle, good effort. If you're going to get beat, you better at least try to make the play or save the play, rather. However, he does not. The ball continues to be loose. And T.J. Edwards here at the end, over here, number 53, ends up coming up with the fumble. And this is going to be the only bad thing I'm going to say about Taylor. The only bad thing, and this is just a personal preference thing. I think this is something that, knowing how Matt Eberflus is, or at least the persona he puts on, I guess we could put it, something that he would probably bring up in practice. I don't love the quote-unquote attitude here, because you get the sack, Taylor gets up, and this ball's still loose. Like, this is still a pile. We don't know where the ball is. We don't know who has it. No one has possession yet. And Taylor just kind of does this, like, badass walk off, which, like, I respect it. But, part of me does think, like, dive on the pile. Even if you think your team has the ball, just dive on the pile. Show a little bit of effort on that. Maybe that's a little nitpicky, and it probably is. But I can't lie. This is cold. Like, just to replay it one more time. The walk-off. Someone said it was like the Joker walking away from the hospital in The Dark Knight. Like, that's pretty cool. I can't deny that. All right, and this is going to be our final pass rushing play for Taylor here. You can see he's going to be lined up not against J.C. Latham, who instead is stuck with DeMarcus Walker, another really underrated defensive lineman on the Bears. This time he's got Nicholas Petit-Frere, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is a third-year offensive lineman out of Ohio State. So you see true wide 9 alignment. You've got the tight end, you've got the tackle. He's lined up outside of them. And as this ball is snapped here, Chig's going to end up running inside, runs a route. So you've got Taylor one-on-one with NPF is just what we're going to call him for the rest of this play. And Taylor's going to do a great job of just going underneath of him. Doesn't even bother engaging with him, doesn't fight with the hands, just gets lower. NPF stands straight up off his snap. Really bad leverage here, you can see. Just an upright positioning here. Obviously, he's bent at the waist a little bit, but you'd like to see him a little bit lower, ideally, against an edge rusher like this. So he just goes right underneath of him. He ends up getting behind Levis. Levis starts to hear footsteps. He starts to feel what's going on behind him. So Levis is going to try to scramble up and out of here. And you're going to see Taylor, he's in hot pursuit. And shout out Petit-Frere here, who's just looking like, well, I did my job. That's a wrap on this play, fellas. Good work. Meanwhile, his quarterback is being hunted down by his man, who is in red hot pursuit. Ends up grabbing Levis by the ankles there. Jaquan Brisker, I don't know why I couldn't think of his name there for a second, ends up finishing the play. But just watching that back in full speed, Taylor, this is a savage play right here. This is just awesome stuff. Like I said, just going up against this guy, the blatant disrespect to just dip right underneath of him. He just kind of watches as his quarterback gets hawked down by 52. Just awesome stuff from Taylor. All right, now we're on to the stuff that really impressed me with Taylor, and that is the run defense. Coming over from Seattle, he was viewed as a designated pass rusher, just somebody to come in on 3rd and long, add some juice, line him up as a wide 9, and just send him at the quarterback on like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. But in this game, they were able to play him all 3 downs. Granted, he rotated in and out a lot because that's how Eberflus likes to use his DNs. But he was able to come in and actually hold his own on obvious rushing downs. First of all here, not lined up as a wide 9, more of a 7 technique because he is a little bit closer to the tackle, J.C. Latham. What's going to end up happening is they're going to bring Chig, who's lined up as an H-back here. He's going to come in motion, or come across the line, not in motion. He pulls, and he's going to try to kick out Darrell Taylor here. And the rest of the line is going to collapse downfield. So I know I drew this wide out here. That's just to show that it's going to be Taylor. The run actually is more like in this area, and you'll see that when the ball's actually snapped. It'll be more apparent from the end zone view because we're going to take a look at it from there as well. So here you just see Taylor crashes down, hits Okonkwo, ends up stuffing the run there. TJ Edwards cleans up. We'll take a better look at it from the other angle. That was just to give you an idea of the alignment and kind of what the plan is here. So again, Chig ends up pulling to about like right here-ish, and his goal, we'll redraw that, is more to kick out Taylor than anything, and then everyone else crashes down pretty far to try to wash all these Bears defenders down the line, and then they want to bring Pollard up through here, and Darrell Taylor just has no interest in that. He's the one who does the heavy lifting on this play pretty easily for the Bears defense. So you see they bring Ridley in motion, everybody crashes down. I mean, Latham, lined up here initially, lines up all the way down here. He's supposed to take on Edmonds, it looks like. But Taylor, realizing pretty quickly what's going on, he's got his eyes on the ball, and he sees Chig coming through, trying to pick him up. So what he's going to do is he's going to get low. He gets lower than Chig, and as we know in football, low man wins. Pollard wants to cut up through here with Latham as his bodyguard. So by getting low here, and he's going to wash Okonkwo down, that is going to stuff this run. He ends up in the lane, so nothing can get, Pollard can't get through him. And then he can't cut back because TJ Edwards is behind him. He can't cut back this way because you got a couple different things going on here. You got Montez Sweat on the outside. I think this is Gervon Dexter over here. Andrew Billings is about to fall on top of somebody. God help them if Andrew Billings fell on top of him. But regardless, he ends up filling this lane, and then him and TJ Edwards finish the play. You get a nice big pile there. That is a hell of a run defense rep for somebody who is not known for run defense. To completely crash that play to get a true run stuff, that's beautiful stuff. That's exactly what I want to see from somebody who was deemed as a true designated pass rusher. All right, so this play is pretty early in the game, and what we're going to see is Taylor lined up first off as this like hybrid overhang linebacker role that we had talked about earlier, 2-point stance, not land up with his hand in the dirt, kind of a hybrid role. They end up switching in here Austin Hooper. He ends up, that's Josh Wiley, not Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper is gone out of Tennessee. So Josh Wiley ends up coming in here and makes this 12 personnel. You've got the 2 tight ends and 1 running back. So that's 12 personnel. So now Taylor is lined up with his hand in the dirt. What's going to end up happening is they want to run this ball up the middle here. They're going to crash the lineman down, and then you're going to see Vanette here. He chips Taylor and then cuts up to cut off TJ Edwards, who's going to try to loop around. And then they're going to pull this guard here to try to take out Taylor and open up this play. And it's just not going to work out for Tennessee, point blank period. So Levis snaps this football here in just a second. You see the guard start to pull across, right here. If you get Vanette, he's extending this hand that he's going to try to put in Taylor to stun him and then take on TJ Edwards. What ends up happening is Taylor swipes that hand away right here. Doesn't let that hand stun him, swipes it away. And the whole time he's staring in the backfield. He wants to see where that ball's going. And you got this big old lineman pulling across here. This is Dylan Radins, who is arguably the best offensive lineman on the Tennessee Titans. I would probably be inclined to say yes, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe I'm a little bit biased in this moment to hype up Taylor. But either way, they're bullying him across, and this is a key block for the play. Taylor just slips him with ease. He's just quicker, he's lower. Radins ends up falling over top of him. Taylor slips him and then is going to go jump Tyjae Spears. He jumps up on his back, takes him down. Now, yeah, Spears gets a couple yards, but judging by the hole Spears had, this could have been a lot worse if Taylor doesn't get his hands on here. Spears is no joke. He was one of my favorite running backs coming out of the draft last year. I think he's the best running back in Tennessee. I know Pollard had the bigger day against Chicago, but I will stand by Spears being the more talented player. You've got him one-on-one with Jaquan Brisker here, who's at a disadvantageous situation because you've got Wiley here trying to get upfield to take him out. So, in my opinion, Taylor ends up making this play. He ends up stopping this from being a huge gain. Now, shout out to Bears 5th-round pick Austin Booker on the other side for working his way into the play and ending up being where he needs to be. But just beautiful, beautiful stuff there. I know I keep saying beautiful stuff, but really, this was a beautiful performance by Darrell Taylor. All right, this is going to be one of those ones where it doesn't look super impressive, but the more you think about it, the better it gets, if that makes sense. We've got Taylor lined up as a wide 9, another overhang, 2-point stance situation here, up against Nicholas Petit-Frere, not up against J.C. Latham this time, which is beneficial for Taylor because Latham, even though he's not the best pass blocker because of his lack of quickness, he's a mauler in the run game. I think he would pretty easily wash Taylor out of plays on maybe any other day. I don't know. Taylor's playing pretty strong this game. But either way, they end up running this. Taylor does a great job of engaging and keeping his eyes in the backfield. He has no interest in this guy in front of him. He wants to see what's going on behind him. He's watching this handoff. So he does a great job of doing that. And then he sets his feet, he plants his feet, and he won't let Nicholas Petit-Frere push him downfield, right? He wants to wash him out of this play as much as possible. He gets this firm back foot right here, and that allows him to lock in on Spears, figure out what's going on, and once this pulling defender ends up getting to the second level, Taylor can just ragdoll NPF here, go over top of him, and assist on the tackle. So you see, he doesn't quite ragdoll him. I said ragdoll. That would be in an ideal world, right? But he does do a good job of resetting himself, gets in on the tackle, helps out. Not the most impressive play by any means, but for someone of Taylor's stature with his resume, his reputation, I'm glad to see him hold his ground against the run, kind of play a disciplined game here, good run diagnostics, all that kind of stuff. Sure, the running back, I believe it's Tyjae Spears, it is, ends up picking up like 3 or 4 because it was really well blocked on the other side of the play and in the middle. But as far as Taylor doing his job, this is what you need to see from him on this play. Sure, he doesn't make like a game-breaking play, but honestly, with a guy like Taylor, seeing the routine stuff against the run is really refreshing and, quite frankly, really inspiring because that shows that he knows how to do the routine stuff and he's capable of making the big plays like he did the play before. And finally, we're going to wrap this up with some good old-fashioned run diagnostics, run discipline. You can see here we've got Ridley coming in motion. They've got Tony Pollard as the back here. Taylor is lined up once again in a 2-point stance as the wide 9 in between the tackle and the slot receiver here. What's going to happen is they utilize Ridley to pull the Bears linebackers in this direction, and then they end up running the ball the opposite way. You can tell by the blocking. And Taylor sees that immediately. This guard and this tackle pulling this direction means that this run is going to go this direction. It's a little bit of misdirection, if you will. So he sees that. His eyes are on this football, waiting for Levis to hand it off. He does not. So it ends up being a read option. And Taylor, as the read, right, like he is the man that Levis is reading. He sets far on the outside, which means that Levis is going to keep this. Because of that, Levis is going to cut upfield. Taylor sees that and just follows him the whole play. Now, there's some really good blocking here by Tennessee and some goofy tackling by Chicago, but Taylor ends up bringing him down for a big gain, unfortunately. Levis celebrates, rightfully so. It's a really good run. But Taylor does a good job here. The diagnostics, reading the run, staying patient, staying disciplined, ends up making the play. Again, not one of those plays that's like ideal, holy shit, game-breaking, why was this man traded for a 6th rounder? But it is like, hey, this guy that can't play the run or couldn't play the run, everyone said couldn't play the run, he's showing you that he can. And that's good enough for me. That's what I want to see out of Taylor. So not the most beautiful play there, but just running it back one more time. Good diagnostics, good discipline, good effort, hunting him down like that. That's what I was talking about with that hits principle with Matt Eberflus. That's exactly the type of stuff he wants to see. And honestly, in terms of trading a 6th round pick for a guy right before cut day, I think he's returned some pretty good value so far. That's going to do it for me here in this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on Taylor. Is he the ailment to Chicago's pass rushing woes? As I said in the intro, I think it is a little early to make any big grandiose claims like that. But knowing how I felt after that win and knowing how many other Bears fans felt after that win, maybe there are some Bears fans who want to jump to that conclusion. And listen, I'm not going to hate you for it. I hope it's the case. I hope him and Austin Booker both end up emerging as superstars and the Bears can have a 3-headed monster with Montez Sweat. Hopefully he can continue his production and his dominance against the Texans next week on Sunday Night Football. That will definitely be something to watch. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below how you felt about Taylor. Also, let me know what other players should I be taking a look at going forward. This is my first video of the week. I might end up doing another one tomorrow. You will definitely get another one on Friday. It'll be the first installment of my Fullback Friday series where we're going to sit and talk about fullbacks every single week. Very much looking forward to that. No spoilers as to who I'm going to be talking about, but make sure to leave a like down below if you're excited for that. And also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my future NFL content. We've also got some other series that I'm going to be starting up here very soon as next week. You definitely won't want to miss. But to everyone out there watching, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder.
Wow. Using that